Hello, this is Angelia, and you are listening to or watching the podcast Why You Do What You Do. A podcast that talks about human development and psychology to maybe help you figure out a little bit more about why you do what you do. And last time we were talking about alcohol use, and we're going to pick up on that again. Alcohol use is associated with other risks characteristic of young adulthood, such as traffic accidents, because I think we all know don't drink and drive, but our kids are especially vulnerable to alcohol and driving. So talk to your kids about don't drink and drive. Crime, again, criminals, alcoholics, need money for their habit, so they might turn to crime, and if you're a little inebriated, you might be more willing to commit a crime. And HIV infection, because you're not using your best judgment and engaging in risky behaviors. Some 1,400 college students die each year from alcohol-related injuries, and drinking contributes to 500,000 injuries and 70,000 cases of date rape or sexual assault each year. So, that's a lot of our kids. 1,400 college students die every year from drinking and, either get the binge drink thing going, with the hazing, or in an accident. So, drinking contributes to 500,000 injuries and 70,000 cases of date rape. So, be careful when you've been drinking who you walk off with, because stuff happens. Students who drink heavily tend to miss classes because they're probably hungover, fall behind in school because if you're not going to class, you're not getting good grades, get lower grades, develop health problems because alcohol does, lower your immune system, and it's going to mess you up, cause property damage, and that's, of course, like I said, drunk hoodlums doing stupid stuff. Drive after drinking. Again, talk to your kids about this. Don't drink and drive. Get arrested because you're doing the wrong thing while you're drunk. And engage in unplanned, unsafe sexual activity. So when you're drunk, your inhibitions are, a little less, so you might be doing something you otherwise wouldn't be doing. So it behooves you to keep your wits about you. Light to moderate alcohol consumption seems to reduce the risk of fatal heart disease and stroke. And that's light. Notice, you heard about the glass of wine a day or shot of whiskey a day or whatever. Alright, that's one drink a day. So keep that in mind if you're doing it for your health. And don't be saying if you drink 6 beers a day, that's for your health. No, it's not. That's because you're drinking too much. And also of dementia later in life. And that's not always true. I know a woman who drank a glass of wine every day, still got dementia. My husband used to drink, a little bit there for a while. Too much, we won't get into his business that far. But he's getting there. So there's always exceptions to the rule. However, heavy drinking over the years may lead to cirrhosis of the liver, and I think we've all heard that one, after other gastrointestinal disorders, including ulcers. I'm working on ulcer number 14. It's fun. Pancreatic disease. I had pancreatitis before when my gallbladder was going out and chock full of stones and backing up into my pancreas. Trust me, you do not want to have pancreatitis. It feels like someone's putting a spear through you and you're going to die. And you can't eat or drink anything while they're pumping antibiotics into you for days in the hospital. So, my advice is just don't become a drinker. Just don't. Certain cancers, heart failure, stroke, damage to the nervous system, psychosis, and other medical problems. And there's a story, excuse me here, allergies. One of my great uncles was in the hospital on oxygen. He was an alcoholic. and he smoked. And my great aunt came in and found him with a cigarette in his hospital room while he was on oxygen. She's like, "Are you trying to die?" Wow. But so addiction is an ugly thing. And it can happen to anyone, especially if it runs in your family. So, like I say, if you want to take that one drink a day for your health, that's fine. If you want to have a drink or two when you're out with your friends, like I said, look it up, know your limit, and stop. Don't go after that. Like I said, it even says in the Bible, don't drink to get drunk. So, that's good advice. The risk of cancer of the mouth, throat, and esophagus are greater for excessive drinkers who smoke. Now, I had an uncle who got cancer in his mouth and throat. He was a heavy drinker. He did not smoke. And he also had an incident where he inhaled, some fire, so that might have led to it. He had scar tissue in his throat. So, just think before you drink. Regular long-term drinking increases the risk of breast cancer. So for women, if you're a big drinker, that increases your risk of breast cancer. Might want to cut it down. Just, Alcoholism is a chronic disease involving pathological dependence on alcohol, causing interference with normal functioning and fulfillment of obligations. And like I say, I had 2 uncles and a cousin who were alcoholics, and they were not functioning very well, and that's a shame. And they died of alcohol-related complications. So, alcoholism is a serious thing, and if it runs in your family, you need to nip that in the bud. You need to not become a heavy drinker, because that will lead to alcoholism, and then, you're going to die. And that's just the facts. Alcoholism runs in families. Close relatives of people who are addicted to alcohol are 3 to 4 times as likely to become dependent on it as people whose relatives are not addicted. So, like I say, if that's running in your family, you need to not become a heavy drinker. You need to know your limit. You need to stop. And honestly, you don't even need to drink. When me and my husband go out now, like we might go to a club or something, like he orders a Coke. People don't know he ain't drinking a jacket of Coke because he used to drink a jacket of Coke. I order Shirley Temple. I don't have no problem with it. Give me a Shirley Temple. Yeah, I get 2 cherries. That works for me. I'm still drinking a drink. I'm still listening to music and enjoying myself and not having to worry about alcohol problems. Alcoholism, like other addictions, seems to result from long-lasting changes in patterns of neural signal transmissions in the brain. Like I say, addiction starts there. You're more likely to have it if you're genetically predisposed to it. And your brain likes to be happy. Let's face it, your brain likes to be happy. Life is hard enough, and a lot of times we're not so happy. So anything that's making the brain happy, like chemical imbalances the brain, and people with like bipolar, alcohol, drugs, fat in foods, sugar in foods, makes the brain happy. So anything that's going to make the brain happy, it's all for that. So you have to kind of outthink the brain and say, yeah, I know you like that, but no, that's not good for us. We need to stop and nip it in the bud and go back a little bit on that. Because, it can be ugly when you don't give the brain what it wants. Exposure to a substance that creates a euphoric mental state brings about neurological adaptations that produce feelings of discomfort and craving when it is no longer present. So yes, if you're an addict and then you don't have whatever you're addicted to, you're going to feel uncomfortable, lousy, cranky, and you're going to crave that thing. Trust me. There for a while, I was eating like a Little Debbie after each meal. When I stopped doing that because my sugar got too high, my body was like, hey, wait a minute, we want that fudge round. And I was like, no, you can't have it. 6 to 48 hours after the last drink, alcoholics experience strong physical withdrawal symptoms, anxiety, agitation, tremors, elevated blood pressure, and sometimes seizures. So withdrawal can be pretty serious depending on what you're addicted to and how addicted you are. Alcoholics, like drug addicts, develop a tolerance for the substance and need more and more to get the desired high. And of course, the more you're putting into yourself, the more you're going to become addicted, and the more you're going to raise your tolerance. Excuse me. So the more you're going to have. So that's a little vicious cycle there that you got yourself into. So just don't do it. Depending on the severity of the condition, current treatment for alcoholism may include detoxification, removing all alcohol from the body, hospitalization, medication, individual and group psychotherapy, involvement of the family, and referral to a support organization such as Alcoholics Anonymous. And I know some people who go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's a good thing. If you are an alcoholic and you know it, why not go where you can get some support? Don't try to go it alone. Like I said, that's how people in my life have died, trying to do it by themselves, and it didn't work, of course. So if you need that help, reach out and get that help. Alcoholics Anonymous has been around for decades, so they know what they're doing, and it works. While not a cure, treatment can give alcoholics new tools for coping with their addiction and leading a productive life. And that's the goal. We all want to lead a productive life and be doing something, to give to society. So if you have a problem, get some help. Don't try to go it alone, because you can't. Drug use. Use of illicit drugs peaks at ages 18 to 20, with nearly 20% of this age group indulging at least monthly. So our young people, the old teenagers and the young adults, are more vulnerable. Excuse me here, got a little gnat flying around, he's bugging me. To using drugs. So these are the folks we need to kind of keep in touch with, keep an eye on, talk to them about drugs and how that's a bad choice in life. And just kind of be aware of what's going on. Rates currently decline with age until the early 40s. The exceptions are those who were teenagers during the 1970s, when drug use was very high. So, a lot of kids get smarter and stop using the drugs. But like I said, I grew up in the 70s. I was born in 67, so yeah, a lot of people were smoking pot, hash. Later in the 80s, people I worked with were doing cocaine. There was one guy, he's in a band, he was doing heroin, so that was happening. So if it's more acceptable to you, because you were born in that little time period there where everybody's like, yes, drugs are good, but no, they're not. Trust me, they're not. You're more susceptible to that, and you're more likely to carry that over into your adult life, and eventually that's going to impact your life in not a good way. Although college students' rate of current drug use, about 18%, is virtually the same as for others the same age, college graduates are less likely than other adults to use drugs. And that's just because people who go to college have a goal in mind and they want to achieve their goal. So these people are more goal oriented anyway. And people who dabble in the drugs and alcohol are usually not more goal oriented. They're usually people who, because of circumstances, didn't have the best breaks in life and have decided this is okay because they're at a dead end job they don't like and things like that. So, get your kids into a good college program, get your kids into a work ready program, in their school if they're, into something. And that's probably one of the best things you can do, is to give them a goal in life that they can work towards. And then that way they don't feel lost out there in the world. As an adolescent, marijuana is by far the most popular illicit drug among young adults. And of course, in a lot of places it's legal now, but it still has effects on your brain. My middle son was having some pain, and he got him some gummies. My husband has pain in his back and hips, and my son was like, "Here, try this gummy." So he said, "Don't take it all. Take like a fourth of it." Well, my husband was in a lot of pain. He decided to take half of it, and it laid him out. He was weird, and oh my God, I hate this. He was jumpy and paranoid and everything. And so I don't really recommend it, honestly. And it helps a lot of people. I used to take CBD oil at night to go to sleep when they took my tramadol away. And it did help me sleep. However, it also made me very paranoid. And I woke up wanting to scratch my face off. So I stopped using that. And I'm not using anything now except for migraine pills, which, I get migraines like 2 weeks ago. I was having migraine about every day. You might have missed me on here, and I just couldn't function. But that's the only thing I'm doing, because due to the pain in my back, I do get migraines. I can feel it more. The more the back hurts, the more likely it is going to happen, and it does happen. It's like it travels up the spinal cord into the brain, and then it's like, yeah, I can't function. Everything is bad. In 2000, 13.6% of 18 to 25-year-olds had used marijuana within the previous month, as compared with 3.6% who used psychotherapeutic drugs for non-medical purposes. So again, you should be using it for medical purposes, not to get high. That's a key thing for our teenagers, is to get high. Honestly, I never enjoyed it. I never thought it was a great thing. It just, you felt weird. You didn't feel like you were quite in control. And, I'm a little bit of a control freak, so I like to be in control of my faculties. So it really wasn't for me. And honestly, if you're a young adult, listen to this. It's not that big a deal. Honestly, it's not. I get more enjoyment of being in charge of my faculties and doing the things I want to do. 1.8% used hallucinogen. Good God. Hallucinogens. Bleh, don't have a stroke. Now, LSD was going around when I was younger. I do believe one of my abusers slipped me some. And I don't recommend it at all. And one of my sons had a friend who did some LSD, and he said it was the most horrifying experience of his life. He got so high that the world was a big scary place. He was outside, and he thought he was being run over repeatedly by cars, and he said he knew he was screaming and just felt like he was being run over repeatedly by cars. But the girl who was with him said, "You fell down in the front yard and just was screaming and kicking around saying, 'Oh my God.'" So, hallucinogen is not a good thing to take. Don't bother. 1.4% who used cocaine, and less than 1% who used inhalants. And you can die from those. You're inhaling something into your lungs, and it can kill you. It's carcinogens usually, so yeah, that's just dumb, so don't do it. Collegiate marijuana users, like binge drinkers, tend to get lower grades, to spend less time studying and more time socializing, and to participate in other high-risk behaviors. Because like we said, if the kid has goals in mind and is goal-oriented, they're more likely to succeed and not feel like they have nothing going on. So, they might also be doing things they shouldn't be doing, criminal activity, sexual activity, things like that. And that's where I'm going to leave you today. I hope that helped you figure out maybe a little bit more about why you do what you do. Please like and share this educational program so we can spread it around the world. If you want to help me out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to help me out even more, go to my Patreon page and become a patron. That's all for now. Until next time.